What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Top 10 takeaways from day number 2 from the NFL Combine.
It's really day
Indianapolis.
3. It's kind of day 3. We got it on Monday.
We've been here 3 days, but 2 days of content,
2 days of action.
2 days of action, 2 days of interviews from fucking 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tonight it got done right before 5 o'clock.
Did you tweet out this link? I need to retweet it.
Because Dan Campbell needed to take his merry time. I did not tweet out the link.
Here it is.
There it is.
Why you see over?
That's the Twitter link. Whatever. We're live on the Twitters at Carpentier NFL. Follow Alex over here. Alex Dunlap joining again. The maestro of roster watch. The top 10 takeaways or 10 thoughts. The 10 thoughts are up right now on Roster Watch. Go check those out over at Roster Watch on the Twitters. You can find me on Twitter at Carpentier NFL as well. Like I said, yesterday and today, you got to stay tapped in all week because we're shooting 20, 30 tweets out a day from talking to these prospects and talking to these coaches and these GMs. So tonight we're going to unload the notebook. I know you just got done listening to Player Profiler today with Jack. And then shortly after us, the mock draft live will be with Maddie and Theo at about 7:05-ish whenever they start up that. And the roundtable starts at 8. So we're going to go for about a half an hour, rip through some notebook conversations and
before we get to the ADPs and notebook conversations, stuff like that. So we got the opportunity to address the front 7 defenders in this class, right? And it was weird, right? It was a weird day at the Combine. This is my 12th year here. There's never been a situation like this was today. What happened at about 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, whenever the Jalen Carter news broke, everything got all thrown off with this. And the NFL didn't know what to do about sending prospects out, sending, all the rest of it. So, different players' podiums got thrown off. Everything got weird there for a minute because it doesn't happen every day that the number one prospect in the whole draft, really a guy that's been talked about as number 1, is set to have his media availability 15 minutes after word has come out that there's an active warrant out for his arrest in a kind of weird situation. What do you think about? Like, I haven't talked to you about that today. We've been so busy running around. Like I don't want to look. The legal process will happen. Whatever, like that stuff will take care of itself. We're not legal scholars. We're not here to talk about this. I don't want this to be, but I haven't talked to you about it. I'm just wondering, did you think that was wild? That was a whole weird thing.
It was. I mean, we stood there. We were waiting for a couple, the Texas guys for you, and we were looking at the schedule, and it was like, well, everything starts at 10 o'clock. We had a little bit of a lull in there between positions, and 10 o'clock was supposed to come around. Jalen Carter was supposed to take stage at 10:20, and he just never came. I think the first group made it out at 10:21, so it was about 20-minute lapse, like you said. My thoughts on it, I mean, people still seem to think he was going to come out. I thought it was pretty apparent to me he's not coming out. As far as he goes, as far as that whole situation goes, he put out a statement, said that his plan is to go back to Athens, clear his name. He said he thinks he'll be cleared of any wrongdoing. So that is what it is. When that comes around, that is what it is. Yep. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But there was multiple prospects and multiple coaches asked about him and about if they conversated with him and all that stuff.
And it also messed up a bunch of the scheduling with a bunch of these guys. Some of these guys didn't get to have their media interviews today because the NFL pushed it back. They had to scramble, and some of the guys that were supposed to go in that 10 a.m. block to the 10 a.m. to 10:20 did not get to go because they were trying to figure it out, and they just had no time to get them back. So, just an interesting morning. I wanted to just ask you before we get into any of these, fantasy guys and all the rest of it. Anything you took away from just from an overarching standpoint from the defenders, as far as these guys? I know that the one thing that I wanted to see was how, and maybe just quickly, we could just talk about Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech.
Yeah, you started. And what about him?
Well, I just wanted to go and see. It's like people are talking about Tyree Wilson as a top 5 pick in this draft. And I look at a guy from Texas Tech that goes against Big 12 offensive linemen that had what do you have? 9? Was it 9 sacks?
7 and 7 the last 2 years.
He's had 7 sacks the last 2 years against Big 12 offensive linemen. I understand his arms are long, and he goes around to all these different NFL studio things and shows off how big his arms are and all the rest of it. And you know what? He could be good. It could be a whole, the projection on him could be good. To me, it's to me, it seems like it's kind of getting a little bit crazy to be talking about a surefire top 10 pick on a Big 12 defensive end that hasn't had much production at all, just because of how long his arms are and because of his wingspan. Especially when I've seen him go against like a freshman like Kelvin Banks at Texas.
I mean, that's the one guy. I probably wouldn't hold against him, but.
Right. But so maybe if you could talk, can you like to give us your scouting report on Tyree, because you do these mocks the whole time. You and I know when we go to the draft, we have the Player Profiler draft house that Matt Kelly's booked, where we're all going to be there once again this year. Hopefully it'll be as cool as it was in Las Vegas last year with the whole crew. I'll be there. A bunch of people will.
Nate, show up,
and we're going to be just dying over getting our mock drafts correct for the huddle report. Just with Tyree Wilson, are we that sure that he's
based on conversation outside? So like we talked about before, I don't have Tyree Wilson as a guy that is in the same ilk of Will Anderson, Miles Murphy. I have Felix up there, King Felix from Kansas State, like you mentioned before. The thing with Tyree Wilson is length. The thing with Tyree Wilson is size. Like Trayvon Walker last year. Trayvon Walker had the long arms, but he also had the freaky athleticism. We're not going to see that from Tyree because it doesn't sound like he's going to run or do anything like that because he's coming off injury. Like you said, 7 sacks each of the last 2 years. The big thing is the perceived athleticism and the length, and playing at that position where, yeah, he could play outside, but I think he can, I think he can transition a little bit to the inside and play like the 5 and the 4-eye pretty well. The power and speed does not transition, I don't think, as well to the inside, though. Like I mentioned to you, I think when he does get those advantages to take advantage of guards, I think he does do it. But like you said, you're supposed to be able to take advantage of those guards. But at least he's doing his job in that sense. But 7 sacks is not what you should be talking about for a guy that's going, like, literally everybody's putting him 3rd or 5th overall right now. And that's like, that seems outrageous to me, because I think, and I'm of the belief that tomorrow we're going to see Miles Murphy run. And I think Miles Murphy's going to be the guy that, fuck Tyree Wilson. It's going to be, not literally, but like, I think Miles Murphy's going to be the conversation of, okay, Miles Murphy is the guy. You see Jalen Carter now with his off the field stuff, and you see Tyree Wilson now. It's just like, I think Miles Murphy's going to be the guy that should and will jump up into that conversation where, he was a 4 or 5 star prospect coming out of high school, and he belongs in that conversation.
I haven't heard many people I just haven't heard many people look at what the establishment draft media is talking about with Tyree Wilson and just begin to ask why, exactly why. And it just, look, I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I'm not saying he's not going to be great. I will say he didn't ever seem like he was a problem whenever Texas was game planning for these guys. And I will say also that I get Deion Jordan vibes. He's
not even that athletic. He's not Deion Jordan athletic. He's just not, right? Like, he's not him. Like, Deion Jordan at least had double-digit sacks.
And Deion Jordan
was a fucking
Deion
dude.
Jordan. Like, you go to this combine, you look at Deion Jordan, you're like, oh my God. Some of the other defensive guys that we saw today, any of them that you want to like at least just mention? I know we're probably losing viewers by talking about this.
We got to talk about these defensive guys. This is the way it is. I love the NFL draft. You love the NFL draft. This is the combine. We're here to talk about all these prospects. And if you don't give a damn, I don't give a damn about you. So stay in the comments, stay in the chat, leave the comments, stay what it is on the YouTubes and on the comments. Lucas Van Ness was one. He was one of the first guys I talked to this morning. I got a couple fun quotes from a couple of these guys, and I'll just run through a few of them. Lucas Van Ness, for example,
whenever we talk about these prospects, though, let's say they're college too, because some people might not know.
Okay, Lucas Van Ness, tall white guy from Iowa. I will say over the last 2 years, I did lead my high school hockey league in penalties just due to my sheer size. That was a quote I took from Lucas Van Ness. He's a guy that,
I like that.
There was a question later on asked to Brad Holmes, would you ever draft a player in the first round that never started a game in college?
Hey, Brad Holmes was like, whoa.
Good. It was a good question.
It's a good question. But he didn't know who you were talking about.
It took him a second to court. I mean, I think it took everybody to a second. And then I remember that Van Ness was the guy. Van Ness from Iowa is that guy. And
is it just because, like, I don't know.
It's all.
Like,
it's all.
Is
the snaps
it because he's like sub package, right?
He's third-year sophomore. The snaps
Right.
are there. It's just it's a year thing. It's
Yep.
it's all fucking, like he said, exactly what Holmes said. He goes, it doesn't matter if you're not starting. What matters is the snap count, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it goes back to the running back conversation. Mike Morris, the other guy from Michigan, I don't think he's getting as much conversation as he should be. You saw Uche, you saw Ujabo, Aiden Hutchinson, all these guys come out of Michigan. Mike Morris, massive, 6'5", 290. If you listen to my Edge preview the other day, 6'5", 290. Asked him kind of who he watches right now in the NFL. A lot of these guys in the Edge class today said Von Miller. But it wouldn't expect that coming from the age where he's getting older. A lot of guys said Von Miller. A lot of guys said Bosa.
But a lot of these guys say Von Miller. I didn't expect it from a guy because isn't Mike Morris, when I saw, he's not small.
No,
he's the one with he was the one with the dreads.
Yeah.
Like
6'6", 295.
Yeah. So like whenever people say that it's almost like saying, I'm a small guy that can rush off the edge and be really good because I'm really fast and really good. Whenever you say I model my game after Von Miller, it's like saying like that's the pinnacle of what I can possibly be, and so that's what I'm going to compare myself to. To hear a guy like him say that he models his game after that, that's interesting to me.
So he didn't say Vaughn. I should say that. I should have prefaced that. I just was mainly saying most of the edge rushers did say him. Who Mike Morris said was.
So Mike Morris didn't say
he
Vaughn.
He didn't actually say Vaughn. I'm
going to say this.
I was getting to my thing, but he said the Bosa brothers. He actually said Hassan Reddick, who's one that's really undersized, 6'1", 240.
Yep.
Not even close. And then he said Myles Garrett. He's a big body like me.
Yeah.
That's much more where I expect him. Mike Morris is going to be a middling round guy, but I think he's going to be a guy that definitely latches on. I awarded Nolan Smith from Georgia the 8 a.m. Energy Award winner because he was the guy on the stage at 8:20 this morning, most energy. He was up there for fucking 40 minutes.
And he's a guy that you just want in your – I mean, this guy – I've done the work on the defensive guys that Cody has, so I'll leave it to him. But as far as just it's just like you go and you get this guy at the podium, dude. He can command a crowd. He can galvanize people. He is a definite leader of men and I think you've seen these tweets. I think that PFF had a tweet that said, like, dude, this guy has already won the combine from just his personality alone.
Yep.
It's like that. Dude, that's what the combine is, man. A lot of this stuff is knowing who these players are, getting to know who they are, the types of dudes, who they, the ways that they can fit into your organization. These football teams, as much as we, look up to them and canonize these players and stuff, like they're employees within an organization, and you have an employee like that. You have somebody like that who can come in and from the very minute. I mean, that's a guy who's a college player who's never faced the national media, who's never done anything. He's never had a media scrum that big in his whole entire life. And you see him holding court.
Big group for 40 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna forward track and back track again like I did with Brad Holmes. Now go to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell mentioned that he has sat in 31 to 35 interviews, he said. And he said he put check boxes next to 4 guys. And the positions that you think about when you think about the Lions, edge, corner, and quarterback, Nolan Smith feels like a guy that he might have put a checkbox.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. He's a bite your kneecaps guy. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Let's stay with edge here. I put a tweet. Miles Murphy, like I said, I think he's going to blow up the combine tomorrow. I think you're going to see high 4.4s, low 4.5s when it comes down to that. I think he should be drafted ahead Tyree Wilson. I don't think that should be a conversation. Let's move on to DeMarvion Overshown, the guy from Texas, your boy. My one comment was that he said Max Dugan talked the most trash out of anyone he's played against at his time as Texas. Do you have any takes on Overshown from today?
I'd say my one take is, obviously viewers here, our audience here is probably fantasy oriented, maybe player props oriented. I know that on Prize Picks, DeMarvion Overshone's more or less on Prize Picks for his 40 time last night. We were there with Dalton
Cakes
and with
John
Daigle and these guys, Chris Allen, man, all a bunch of awesome dudes. We were looking at the Prize Picks 40 times over at Punch Bowl Social, and I think that DeMarvion Overshone was at a 5.3. 4.53.
Yeah.
So I did ask, I did ask him about the 40 time. He said, he's been gunning for and he's hoping for sub 4.5. So I think there could still be a little bit of value still left there. Other than that, I mean, if you want to ask me about DeMarvion, I don't feel like there's another show coming up here on this channel. Like I could talk about DeMarvion for the rest of the show. Like, I'll just say this: safety spun down to linebacker during his last 2 years playing linebacker. He got better and better. He came back for the 5th year. When he came back for the 5th year, that's when we really, really saw him pack on a little bit of weight, saw him become a real leader on the defense. Sideline to sideline specialist. Talking to people in the know here in Indy today, people close and people who are actually employed by NFL teams, they're talking about DeMarvion as a day 2 pick. That's kind of what I think, and it has a lot to do with his ability to cover linebackers, his ability to play as a dime linebacker, as a nickel linebacker, but a guy you don't have to take off the field in heavy packages. That's something that he really, really prides himself on. He's like, man, you don't, like, if I'm out there, you don't have to sub. You don't have to give the other team the advantage of bringing in their guys to match your personnel because of what I can do with my versatility.
We'll stay at the linebacker position. Cam Jones from Indiana was another one that he played some safety, played some hybrid, played some linebacker at Indiana coming out of high school as well. He kind of compared himself to a Troy Polamalu. I kind of like that throwback comp. I know it's a legend, but it's a throwback comp, and it makes you think about some of these guys. He's got a little good. He's going to be higher on the dog rating when Cam Jones comes out. Trenton Simpson, more talked about linebacker. He actually grew up in Charlotte, and when he was asked about teams that he talked to and his connection with Carolina specifically, he actually mentioned he had been in contact with the Carolina Panthers brass since high school, and he went to Mallard Creek High in Charlotte. So I just thought that was a very interesting note that, yes, he's looking at being a first-round pick, and I know Carolina's got some other spots to fill, but Trenton Simpson went to Clemson, has had conversations with Charlotte, with the Carolina Panthers since high school. Thought that was a pretty unique note. And then let's talk about Jack Campbell here for a minute. He said, I love having that green dot on my helmet. When I make a mistake, I want to be the first one that raises my hand, and then I want to be the one that gets chewing tobacco spat in my eye from coaches at Iowa.
And it wasn't just that. Like, it was one of these deals where it's like, I'm just, like I said, I'm not here to as much. I do the mock drafts and stuff, and clearly I'm a huge NFL fan and stuff like, but I own a fantasy football website.
Yeah.
I'm here for the running backs, I'm here for the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, the tight ends, but I'm just such an NFL fan. Like, I want to see all these guys, and like, I want to know who these guys are. I want to do my mock drafts for the huddle report, and I want to continue doing well in those. And so as I'm walking by and just hearing these dudes talk, you walk by him and you can't help stop at his little scrum. The way that he talks, and the way that somebody will ask him, how do you see this? How do you see this? And he'll point at me and he'll say, well, you don't know how playing linebacker works, because do you know what it starts with is the defensive line, because without the defensive line and without those big boys, we are nothing. Just like the quarterback, without the offensive line, they're nothing. Without all this, I'm just like, holy shit, this guy. I'm like, all right, let me sit here and listen to this dude for a minute. He's just like, totally just one of the more cool combine interviews that I've seen out of really anybody, man, out of the Iowa linebacker.
I kind of made my trek. I tried to hit every player. Obviously, it's almost impossible to hit every player, but that's kind of part of the dog rating thing. Is want to get a feel for everybody. And I was starting on this one end, and I get a text from Alex as I get through about the third guy, and he goes, "You got to get down here and see this Jack Campbell guy." And like, I knew who Jack was. He's a big ass linebacker from Iowa. Had my expectations, had what I've seen. But you said that, I skipped like 3 dudes. I went right to him. I was like, I got to come down here. And he, like you said, he talked about all that stuff, talking about the tobacco, talking about the big thing I thought was that he was like, he made it a point to be like how intensive film study and how important it is to being a linebacker and how important it was to have that green dot and all these other things from the linebacker position. But a lot of linebackers there today. I thought he was one of the big ones that took the cake, especially the other name I didn't mention was Deion Henley. Just want to put that name out there from Washington State. He had a fantastic Senior Bowl, had another good day today as well.
Yeah, he did.
I think as far as the rest of the group goes, the defensive tackles came out. That was when Carter started to come out, or didn't come out, I should say.
That's when things got messed up, man.
That's really when all the stuff got messed up. And then Kalijah Cansey. I want to hit Kalijah Cansey quick, and then maybe mention Coburn a little bit. But Kalijah Cansey is a 6-foot guy. Hopefully he comes in at 6 foot. That's a big thing. He said he played at 275. He weighs 280 right now. And it's weird because from a Pittsburgh guy, you expected Donald to come out of his mouth first. I said, who you watch, who you can take after. He said Javon Hargrave. He thinks leverage and explosivity is kind of what enhances his game a little bit. He said you can't half-ass any play being an undersized defensive tackle. I thought that was very important for him to mention. Kalijah Cansey's a guy that I think he's going to be a first-round lock as well. Do you have any positive thoughts on Keandre Colburn? I know he's a Texas guy. I know we don't get a ton of time, but I thought it was very interesting some of the things he mentioned, especially about the next couple classes coming down.
Yeah, I mean, I just think with Keandre Colburn from Texas, he's a good player, and he's I think he'll get drafted. He had struggles with weight during college, man. He fluctuated a whole lot. Again, another guy I could talk about for ages. It doesn't matter. I think the most important things he talked about were just like looking into the next year and looking at the years forward. I think that probably the most important thing he said was the Texas left tackle, Kelvin Banks, who he goes against in practice all the time. He said that guy's going to be the number 1 pick 2 years from now. So after Kelvin Banks' junior year, the grading that I've done on the offensive line for the last 12 years at Texas certainly goes to show that he's probably on – I'm not saying he's on the way to being the number 1 pick, but certainly on the way to being a first-round pick. So something to keep in mind there as far as what Keandre Colburn said. Let's talk
about some GMs. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about some GMs and some coaches.
Okay, so
Eric DeCosta was the start. Eric DeCosta was the first GM to walk out the door.
So first thing, I mean, do we want to play this audio or just explain what the audio is? Because we have DeCosta here. I'll just go to DeCosta here. It's 30 seconds. I asked him about J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins this year to kind of hit the ground running after getting a year to get his feet back underneath him. Yeah, J.K. finished strong. Really, really impressed with his passion, his work ethic, the way that he battled back from a very, very serious knee injury. It was very impressive to me to see how, he really kind of matured over the course of the season. He came back from that second procedure surgery that he had, and he started to really look like the old JK, which is extremely exciting for the organization. And we fully expect JK to have a great year this year.
Extremely exciting for the organization. Extremely exciting for fantasy. Extremely exciting. I tweeted this at Roster Watch on our Twitter. It's like extremely exciting if you're playing in best ball. J.K. Dobbins right now, I'm scrolling down. I'm like, okay, J.K. Dobbins is going at 70.2. He's so what?
After Damian Pierce.
He's going at the 6th, 7th round turn. He's going around the same time as like Isaiah Pacheco and Cam Akers.
And Damian Pierce.
I love Damian Pierce.
No, I know we love Damian Pierce, but Damian Pierce.
But Damian Pierce is not the prospect that J.K. Dobbins was coming. We talked about J.K. Dobbins like he was like going to be the next Larry Johnson. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, another guy who we don't have time for me to talk about coming just from just east of Austin and getting sniped up to Ohio State. Nobody could believe it, but to be able to get Dobbins right now in these early drafts, there are so many. Okay, there's so much mispricing in these early best ball drafts.
Here's the question: yesterday we had the conversation between Brees and Javonte. That was the wrong conversation to have because of the discrepancies in ADP. Here's a question for you, Alex. Javonte Williams coming off an ACL or J.K. Dobbins after today?
Dude, there's no question that I would have J.K. Dobbins next year over Javonte. Javonte's going to have his J.K. Dobbins 2022 in 2023. J.K. Dobbins is about to have his breakout season.
J.K. Dobbins is about to have his
did you hear how
his next year, his following year?
They're unbelievably excited. Like this is big time. This is big time stuff for these guys.
Is the Saquon arc, right? He had that big missed year. Then the next year he got a little banged up, but he played a little bit. That's what Dobbins did last year. And now it's time for Dobbins to have what Saquon did last year. So go put some tickets in on J.K. Dobbins' comeback player of the year. Let's move on to Scott Fitterer with the Carolina Panthers. Asked him about D'Onta Foreman. I said, what's the expectation for the running back room in Carolina this year? Chuba's under contract, Raheem Blackshear, and Deonta's a free agent. He said, I told him that he's a priority guy and we'd like to get a deal done with him. Talking about D'Onta Foreman. So that's very interesting, being that's a new coaching staff coming in there, and Fitterer liked where D'Onta and Chuba were in this backfield.
Yep, and it's like we talked about earlier with the undrafted free agent, or with the with the 2023 free agent running back class.
Yep.
Jamal Williams and D'Onta Foreman, take him off the board at this point.
Yep.
Jamal Williams is going to go back to the Lions. D'Onta Foreman is going to go back to the Panthers, barring unforeseen circumstances, just based on public statements made by representatives of these organizations. Like they're saying, both of them have said it's a priority to bring him back. We have positive direction towards bringing him back. You know, like it's they can't say we're bringing him back.
Yeah,
they can't say it yet, but it makes a lot of sense. Fitterer told you, he said basically, he kind of wink, nod.
Yeah,
he was our, we told him in the exit interview. Yeah. It's like we want you back.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so
you looked good last year, and then right into Brad Holmes, who said there's mutual interest. Shout out to Dove Kleiman for stealing that one. The mutual interest. We were working to get a deal done with Jamal Williams, and that was straight from Brad's mouth. So it sounds like. And then you got a clip on Swift.
Yeah, I mean, I have Dan Campbell talking about DeAndre Swift. I just like hear.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your philosophy about the best way to deploy DeAndre Swift? Is he a guy you think you're always going to kind of have to manage the touches and the reps with him?
No, we can get some, we tried to do that last year. We tried to take care of him in camp. I know this, he is a very talented player, and, he's a very talented player, and he's one of those guys that can take it to the house anywhere on the field. And he works, he wants to get it. He works hard in the classroom, and, we thought we had a recipe going into the year, and it didn't work out. He got a little bit banged up, and then by the end of the year, he started to feel better and his production went up. So, listen, we're going to start all over from scratch again, man. Let's find another way to see if we can help him stay on the field, and I already know he's doing that for himself. So we've got to do that on our end. What can we do better by him? Can we? Because he's too talented. He's too talented to not have out there. He's an explosive athlete.
He catches a lot of Kamara, McCaffrey conversations, right? Coming out, what his expectation is. And what I immediately thought of exactly when he spit those words out was John Lynch yesterday talking about the understanding of Christian McCaffrey. And you went through those couple of years where McCaffrey struggled, but they found the recipe and then it got there. And I think that there's still, and I've never owned a singular share of DeAndre Swift in Dynasty or in fantasy in any realm because of the injury thing, of the feeling of Christian McCaffrey. And I think that there's still a world, after hearing what Lynch said yesterday and what Campbell said today, I think if they can find a middling and Williams comes back, I think there's still an area where Swift can still have a career renaissance and be that guy. I think they just need to find that spot where he's a high performance athlete. They need to find that spot. So hopefully Dan Campbell can hear that video or the interview or the thoughts from John Lynch from yesterday about McCaffrey.
But as long as we're talking about Lions, what about Jameson Williams? What about the? I mean, is that the highlight of the day? Is that what we go out on? I mean, because what about Brad Holmes whenever he's talking about Jamison Williams?
Almost like another first-round pick this year with Jamison Williams coming on board fully this year. And what are you expecting of him in 2023?
Yeah, obviously we're expecting big things. I guess that's a good way to put it. It's kind of like a brand new first round pick. The goal when we originally drafted him, we didn't know really how much we were going to get out of him, but it was good to have him get some kind of game experience to kind of feel the speed of the game. But we're just going to continue to do everything that we need to do to make sure that he's set up to succeed. Jamison also has to hold his part and make sure that he's doing everything that he needs to do. So it's always accountability factor on both sides, but we expect big things from him. He's got rare talent, rare ability. He's got a serious passion for the game, and we expect big things from him. But obviously, we got to do both our parts to make sure he's up to succeed.
Alex, what's the ADP over there on that Jamison Williams?
I mean, it's just here's the thing. Everybody's got to do their part. He was their first round pick, and I'll just say this on a
right there
on a
balanced
an 11 route per game diet that he played whenever he came back in. All he's doing is scoring long, big touchdowns. They're saying he's got to do his part. His ADP right now on Underdog is at 60.9. So at the 5-6 turn, when you're talking about a guy who a lot of NFL draft analysts thought was the number one wide receiver in all of the land last year coming out of the draft, on an offense that plays in a dome, on a fast track, that on a bigger sample with more routes, on a yards per route run monster of a guy who they love. And of course, it's the Lions. And of course, it's Brad Holmes. Of course, it's Dan Campbell, who we're going to say, of course, he's got to hold up his end of the bargain. He's got to do this stuff. It's a culture of accountability. But I'll tell you what, man, the Lions are turning into a culture of fun on the football field offensively. And Jamison Williams is going to be a guy. Dude, Jamison Williams is going to be like, they say that there's not 32 wide receiver ones in the NFL, right? Not just because you're a wide receiver one on your team makes you a wide receiver one. Jamison Williams is the kind of player who is capable of ascending to being a true wide receiver one. And what is a better environment?
And the thing is like we talked to a couple guys today, and they said they don't think there's any wide receiver ones in this class. And when you get a guy like Jamison Williams, kind of as that extra draft pick, I mean, look at the guys he's going around. The speed that he has is a difference maker. Like we talked to a couple of guys today about Jalen Hyatt. Jamison Williams' speed is difference maker. Look at the guys he's going around. I think that range around Keenan Allen and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who both are going to run 4.6 plus. I'm
not sure Jigba will run 4.6 plus. I'm not sure Jigba's going to run.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is he going to run?
Is he going to run?
I mean, I don't know.
Is he going to run? We'll find out, man. Hey, we'll find out.
We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, man. Cheers, man. Cheers, man.